Hey, everybody, welcome back to Too Many Men. My name is Alison Lucan, and I am delighted to be joined by, she's always been a multimedia journalist. But as the playoffs get ramped up to another level, so too does the editorial work of one Sara Sivian, who, if you are not already subscribing to her Substack, what's wrong with you? But she released an awesome little quickie 7-minute quick hit on game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, and it was amazing. Sara, as you elevate, tell us how the hell you are and how it's going.
Oh, thank you. I'm awesome. Yes, I started doing mini voice memo-esque podcasts just by myself in the morning when to publish while you're on your commute or whatever after ECF games. And I'll do it during the Stanley Cup too, because I'll be there. So that'll be fun. But for some of the games, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yes, I will be there for at least two games.
Just
And
a
in
little bit of a
conclusion,
news drop
it's
there. What's
yes.
happening?
Bleacher Report finally made it happen for me. So I'll
There
be
we
there for
go.
two games at some point, and we'll make the most of it.
Watch them say it'll be game 6 and 7, and then
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
well, that's awesome. We're so excited to have your actual boots on the actual ground at the Stanley Cup final. It's amazing. We would not be Too Many Men if we didn't have our third co-host. And usually I talk about something amazing that she's done, but y'all, since it will happen before we record again, let's all join me in wishing the Queen, Shayna Goldman, an early happy birthday on this coming
Yay!
Monday.
Our Gemini, a Gemini. No, no, no. You're not a Gemini, right? Yes,
Yeah.
you are. Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
I
Let's
am fucking
go.
through and through.
Let's
Oh, thank
go.
you.
Shayna, say hi.
Hi.
Good
I'm gonna be
job.
too old to say hi next week.
Girlfriend, watch your mouth, please.
I'm sorry, I'm the worst person about birthdays.
Please.
Because you are a valiant person who doesn't want the attention on you, but it'll be a day everybody should show Shayna how special she is because she deserves it and never wants to be in the spotlight.
Uh,
Drink your crazy ass sodas. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sara, are you watching Real Lives of Mormon House, whatever the hell it's called?
All my friends are. They went back after we were out over the weekend to watch it till like 6 in the morning. I'm like, guys, I'm going to bed. I'm not watching until hockey's over, but I will be watching.
I am through the first four, and it's fantastically terrible television. It's so good. It's
I
so
need
good.
that. I need that in
Yes.
my life.
Shayna, that should be your birthday present to yourself, is to watch that
there we
show.
go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
After hockey and after the French Open, because I feel like I'm gonna be like, I can't even do my normal like I stay up late after games to watch
Right.
TV, but now I'm gonna have to like wake up by like 8 a.m. and like shoot myself every day. So after that, maybe I will. But I did add it to my list on Hulu because I was like, okay, I feel like I've been told to watch this.
There's really like to your point of that. I was on a different show, Joe and Joe in North Carolina, and we were talking about they were doing their podcast post game, and it's like I can't figure out what I like better, just kind of gritting through the night and waking up later, or waking up early and kind of collecting my thoughts the next day. Like, what's your protocol when it comes to kind of the content? I know you're a late night girl, but like, do you find that easier or more stressful?
I find it easier, but like this year I've done things differently. Like my editor was even telling me like, hey, don't send shit in at 2 a.m. because I can't look at it. And he wants to like work with me more, which is great. So what I do is I like to stay up and write, but not send it in and like basically like start my process earlier than I would. And
Mhm.
then in the morning, give myself at least an hour to essentially rewrite the entire thing because I will read everything I wrote the night before and be like, this is garbage. But like I do that if I have a month to write something, I will do it and then like the day before redo it. So I think the morning I'll give myself the time to comb through it, but like I know today that was me. I was like, I'm gonna get up today at 8 and I'm going to write. No, I stayed up till 3. I wrote and then I looked at it this morning. I'm like, okay, now I like left myself notes to pick up on.
Wow, we're growing up because I feel like I find myself doing the same thing and it's just less stressful.
Yeah.
Look at us. Such big
Look at
girls
us
now.
growing
Look at
up on our
us. Look
birthday.
at us. All right. Well, there is some other stuff to talk about besides birthdays. We'll do a full birthday debrief in our next episode. But for now, Sara, what time is it?
Time for bit oh news.
Oh my God, special correspondent.
Yeah, she was there. She said there's a lot of news to cover.
Your boss and now special correspondent. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, my friends, there is a lot going on around hockey, and it's almost as big as the fact that we may actually, possibly for real this time be getting Reputation TV? Who's to say?
Oh,
God
I didn't
bless.
know where we were going with that. I had no idea. And I'm like, what are we getting? What are we doing?
Sarah, I didn't tell you the other sign why it might actually be coming is that Shayna actually quoted a Taylor Swift lyric to me the
I
other day
did.
and got it
That was the
right. And got it
that's the last
right.
Easter egg.
Honestly, I feel like it was the perfect example of using it. And then I told Rich afterwards, and he's like, well, doesn't everybody know that line? It's a meme. And I was like, why the fuck do you know this?
What was it?
Go ahead.
Um,
You wouldn't last
you wouldn't last a day,
an hour.
an hour in the asylums I grew up in.
Oh my God. You had it right before. Did you cheat and look it
Fucker.
up?
That's the
No,
AI version.
no. Uh, oh my God. You wouldn't last an hour in the asylums. What was the last line of it?
Where
They
they
Raised
made
me?
yes.
hey.
Okay, but the referencing of it was the more important part. It was
Yes.
okay. So we have been watching these availabilities, these
What?
breakup days.
We're gonna get to, don't spiral on the availabilities.
Well, just the I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty, but we watched the Canucks and we had a lot of thoughts. And we were discussing a lot about the questions being asked and the way everybody was being pressed versus the Leafs. And like Leafs media, I feel like would not last a day in Vancouver. Like I want to see the Leafs media go to like media day in Vancouver and have to do it that way. I feel like the Canucks media is so seasoned and
Seems like
so expert at handling insanity that no one can live up to it.
they're not seasoned, they're just salty. Hey-oh.
Oh,
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, there is important news. And the first thing we want to talk about, and this is very important to me personally, is that the PWHL has released their expansion draft key dates, rules, and procedures for the teams in Vancouver and Seattle to build their rosters. Things are going to start June 3rd with player protection lists due. Then there is an exclusive signing window followed by an expansion draft on June 9th. And then on June 24th, there is the full 2025 draft. Shayna, there has been a lot of reaction around the PW about this. Some fans seem to be very concerned that their teams will be decimated by losing key players. What are your thoughts so far?
I mean, I think that they're coming into this differently than the NHL, right? Like this is we want the expansion teams to be competitive. Like do not want it that but I get that again, like we've seen how the NHL has made teams competitive like off the bat in the last two expansions. It's not what it was in 2000. So I think that is a cool twist on it, but the test is going to be how other general managers then buy their way out of losing players, right? Like that's what I am very curious if we're going to see because we saw that with Vegas, right? Like every team was so quick to be like, "Hey, don't touch Brandon Montour, but we'll hand you Shea Theodore," right? And things like that. So, does anyone in the PW kind of embrace that mentality to avoid losing players? Like, I don't know, but it's intriguing. It's a little bit convoluted because of course it is. That's the PWHL way. But I'm very interested to see. I like that they keep trying to create their own path, right? They're learning from what everybody else does and adding their own twist to everything and then giving other leagues something to learn from.
Sarah, are you more concerned for the teams who might be losing players that they've started to build around as each of these teams gets a foothold? Or are you more excited to see what Vancouver and Seattle might be capable of?
yeah, I think there's growing pains with any league, and especially when there's so few teams in this league right now. It is you're right to be kind of concerned as a fan, and I think there's going to be significant changes, right? It kind of makes it fun for people who aren't fans of one specific team, and it kind of makes it for people that are fans of the one team. But with great power comes great responsibility, or however you want to phrase that. Like you'll get yours. Maybe they'll got mine, but we'll all get yours. The reputation era, okay? They get it will come back around because there's so few teams, right? Like where you kind of get the high stakes stuff going on, if that makes sense at all. Like you will have an opportunity to have the same type of look.
It's going to be interesting to see, particularly because at my last check, neither of the new teams has yet selected their general manager. So we'll see who's running these drafts as well. But they have time. They have 13 days. They have time.
Hopefully they have people hired and we'll just wait to hear the announcement so everyone can just focus on the final first. That's what I'm
Yeah.
crossing my fingers
That's
for
fair.
because like that should get the spotlight. And I mean, can we talk for a second though about the curse in the PW?
Please.
So we're talking about how they do things differently, and the first place team gets to pick their opponent for
And
the
the
second straight year.
Victoire, we talked about this last week. The Victoire chose Ottawa. And who won that series, Shayna?
Ottawa won. Ottawa had it. Now they're in the final and they're up. Oh, look at that. 1-0. To think they're doing this after Mashmeyer got hurt and Gwyneth Phillips, all the credit in the world to everything is she is doing in net. But that is a true pick your poison. And I wonder how teams will think about it differently, right? Because even this year, you're going for the fourth place team. You're like, okay, that's natural. That's what it would have been in proper traditional seating. But I feel like there's just like this spite element to it that it has to give that other team more fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun to watch. You guys can all watch those playoffs as well. They're easily accessible. So follow along on Twitter if you aren't already and check in on those final remaining games for the PW final. All right, moving on to the men's side. Since we last talked, Vancouver and Philadelphia's coaching hires were officially finalized. But the three of us talked before we started recording and decided that was a million years ago, so we're not going to break those down anymore. 4 teams still remain looking to decide who their bench boss will be for the next season. Pittsburgh, Seattle, Boston, and Chicago. We'll see where those 4 land. Los Angeles also finalized the hiring of Ken Holland as their new GM, also again a million years ago. You've probably already read all the takes. We shall move on. But there is one bit of news. And Sara, I saved it for you.
Oh, let's go.
The Bruins of Boston have announced that they have extended their general manager, Don Sweeney, for 2 more years, which will take his reign through the 2027-28 season. Many are speculating that this is part of their strategy in deciding who their head coach will be so that candidates feel there might be some stability in terms of who their boss may or may not be. But with the Bostons declining over the past couple of years, there is a lot of hashtag discourse about whether or not this was the right thing to do. Your thoughts?
I mean, I know that take is floating around now that it's because they need to have like stability when it comes to getting a head coach, but it's just like I've never heard that one before. I mean, that's the literally the first time I've ever heard that. And he's literally on a contract already. So that's just like me when I need to make excuses for something. I think that was ridiculous. You have a huge year in front of you. He hasn't been good with the draft, and why don't you just assess how he handles the draft, see if you like it or not, and then give him an extension or not? It's not like he had 1 more year left, so I just don't understand why you're jumping the gun there, other than that's bestie. Like, I'm Cam Neely, this is my best friend, and I'm going to extend him before he does a bad job at the draft. So I said I don't know.
Shayna, do you like the extension or no?
I mean, it's a choice. Choices are made and they haven't been good in Boston. And you look at where this team has gone and like obviously there's like a natural progression with most teams that like as they age their windows close. But I feel like it didn't have to go down this way. And I put that squarely on Don Sweeney's shoulders, but sure, extend him. I mean, like in one way, it takes away a lingering question so you don't have to deal with it as long as you're willing to do what needs to be done, right? Like sometimes we see coaches even get these extensions and then get fired a couple months later because it's free money to teams. They literally don't care. But I just don't feel like that's the case here. Like I feel totally different than I would like the Rangers. They extended Chris Drury and they didn't need to assume, but they did it a year later and they're like, that's not overhanging us, whatever. And I feel like for them, they're gonna do whatever it takes. And if they fire him, they don't care, right? Like they'll throw away the money. The Bruins, I feel like they're like, no, 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 we trust Don. And it's like, I guess you have to commit to it at this point if you've gotten rid of everybody else and blamed everybody else instead of putting the blame on him.
So, welcome back, Don, I guess. Here's to more choices you make. That's it for Bit O News, but I'm so glad it's over because here it is, my friends. We have waited. We took pause. It had to be something impactful enough to bring back your favorite segment And my friends, I think they did it in spectacular form. Shayna, what time is it?
It's time for how does it affect the Leafs?
Y'all, I mean, honestly, we can't make this up. The Leafs lose game 5, 6-1 at home. They go down to Florida. They win that game to force a game 7. They look good. It was impressive. They responded. It seemed like they were shaking off all the demons. And then in one of the most insane games I've ever seen, they meekly wobble away into the offseason with, you got it, another 6-1 loss that was preceded by Bestie Drake betting $1 million on the Leafs, which, first of all, we have talked about a million times, is not be happening. Mitch Marner is going off on his team at the bench. They have now got, I've got a whole ton of stats for you because this is so, so, so spectacular. In that game, through 2 periods, the Leafs had 75 shot attempts against, which was the most by any team this season. That's in game 7. They now have the second longest losing streak in NHL history in winner take all games. Since the 04-05 lockout, this is courtesy of our friend of the pod and my show producer, Scott Malone, the Sabres, you guys, the Sabres have won twice as many playoff series in 4 as the Leafs have, which is 2. And obviously, one of those teams hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years. The Canucks have 2 playoff appearances over the 9 consecutive years that the Leafs have made the playoffs. And they have just as many series wins. And a final nugget from Scott: since the 04-05 lockout, only Seattle, which is the newest team in the league, has won fewer playoff series than the Leafs. They are tied with the Blue Jackets and Wild. Arizona does have more, and only Minnesota has won a lower percentage of playoff series. Then there's the exit interviews where apparently media can't ask any hard questions. And there's a saying on the wall that's just incredible. There's so much to dissect. Sara, I will let you start wherever you'd like to first.
Can you explain to me that saying on the wall? Because I saw it and I didn't know if it was like AI. Like I did not know. I don't know how that got. Did they do that to themselves?
Well, okay, I'm trying to find the exact word. Mark
No
Lazarus.
grit.
No grit, period. No grind, period. No greatness, period.
Yeah. Why?
Which apparently is also a song. But the beauty of it is that in the song, as it is, well, no, actually, no, I am wrong. The song has no punctuation in it in the actual published lyrics. Mark Lazarus, friend of the pod, pointed out that after each of those phrases, no grit, no grind, no greatness, they put a period, as opposed to a comma, which would imply a building effect of if you don't have one, you don't have the other. But they literally have it in periods, and it seemed to be an indictment. It's literally on the wall, right there next to where everyone's talking, doing their exit interviews. Insane.
It's too much. You can't you can't make this up. Like
It's like not wrong, but
that's the thing, like
why?
it's telling, like did you mean you couldn't have meant that, like that you have none of those things. Because clear, but here's the thing, like they have grit and grind and it didn't get them greatness. They're trying to slow it
Yeah.
down instead of playing a fast game. And the Panthers can, they have the grit, they have the grind, and they have the speed. And oh, look, they have the power. They're the ones that might go back to the Stanley Cup final for the 3rd straight year. And instead, the Leafs are like, this is how we have to be battle tested and playoff ready. Who knew it would burn them again? Who knew?
Sara, in all seriousness, what is your take on this team? Many people are speculating that Mitch Marner is gone. There might be changes also with Tavares unless he takes an extremely hometown friendly discount for a new contract. But what Craig Berube looked baffled by what happened with his team in 2 of those last 3 games. Legitimately, do you have an opinion on what's wrong with this group?
It's literally like, and I don't say this a lot, and we're all people that love and or appreciate data. even if we don't always understand it. I like that it paints a picture of where things are going, but there's also a human element to the game. And I think this has been like, it's just too many years of losing with this core in such an environment, like the context of everything, right? It's like the environment, the abuse some of these players took in the beginning of their careers with Babcock, right? That matters. And they have endured so much only to not win shit. You know what I mean? Like it seems great when they're winning the first round. And then every time they do it, which has been what, twice, it's like, wait, we have other stuff to do too. And this is hard. And it's not even the catharsis that you want. So it's just, it's on top of how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup for anyone. It's the pressure in the market, the pressure with the contracts in proportion to the rest of the team when it comes to the core four, the pressure of the last years and the Brad Marchand of it all. He's 5-0 against in game sevens against the Leafs, which is literally, it matters because it's like a shit stir like that defeating you at all game seven. It's letting it get to game seven and knowing what's going to happen. And it's kind of, they don't believe. They literally don't believe. And it's also Austin Matthews. I think he's injured. I think something's up there. And I think Mitch Marner is a goner. I think by his comments and by just, it's not working anymore, right? It's like torture to keep this going. I think he gets so much criticism, but Austin Matthews is supposed to be double the goal scorer that he is. Marner's supposed to be a more dynamic two-way player. And I don't ever see anybody criticizing Matthews when he's a ghost.
Shayna, I want to flip the question to you. The people who are involved in this off the ice, many are speculating that changes could go all the way up to Kyle Shanahan not being there anymore. Is this validation for Kyle Dubas, who was hinting at breaking this group up and then was summarily dismissed from his position? And now it looks like the decision to keep the core four together all along was in fact the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't love the direction that Shanahan has taken this team in. You know, like I think blame it goes everywhere, right? Like it starts at the top and it's going to trickle down. I don't think Kyle Dubas was the perfect general manager at all in Toronto, but I think he was onto something that should have gotten the chance to keep going versus whatever they did this year, right? Like I think you look at the hiring going, they went with Brad Tree Living, who you know, is not like some great team architect and think that's the answer. And you see the way that they've taken this team to be a totally different, like a playoff caliber team in their mind 10 fucking years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Like that's not what's winning in today's game. So it just like it's a challenge. And it's so odd to me too that someone who has the experience and knows what it takes to win, like I don't know, like, don't you want to see that influence somewhere on the ice a little bit more, right? Like, you have good players, but are they good players or are they great players? Are they players or are they dogs in the playoffs? Like, they're none of that. And I feel like it just all comes to a head, right? Like, at a certain point, who should be held accountable here? I feel like everyone's so quick to be like, it's Mitch Marner's fault, it's Austin Matthews' fault. And it's like, yeah, they're accountable for what they do on the ice. But like, what response did the coaching have? What response did management have? And let's like, and then higher up, right? Because who put all of this entire the Shana plan into place? Oh, I don't know, the person at the top of it all. And you look at things like Matthews, right? Like you brought up Matthews, Sarah, and you're right. He did not get as much blame, and I will give him an inch because there was definitely something he said. He was hurt in preseason. We saw it all regular season. The goal scoring wasn't at its usual heights. Okay. So he's to blame for not being the best version of himself, right? Whether or not it's in his control. And Mitch Marner doesn't bring it in game sevens. So you could put all the blame on that and Nylander and Tavares, right? But if you know that your best goal scorer, who's capable of scoring 70 goals in the regular season on a good day, isn't at that level, why did you not get him help, right? Like, why didn't you get, I don't know, secondary scoring, a third line scorer? You spent a first round pick to bring in Scott Lawton, who ended up being your 4C essentially. And while I thought he was very good in his role, it didn't solve their problems. So yeah, the players on the ice are responsible for not being good enough, but they were never given the support they should have had. And that was the difference, one of the big differences between them and Florida, right? Like if you want to go apples to apples, you need to have the lineup strength on paper, and then the players need to step up in the moment too, and neither happened.
Yeah. Sarah, this is a decision that we always talk about with teams because only one team is going to end up making quote unquote all the right decisions as they hoist the cup. But looking at it now, Do we like the decision to have kept Marner here through this one final push? Because again, he will be a free agent this summer, and for financial reasons and also chemistry reasons, et cetera, so forth, it all seems likely, as you said, that Marner is not going to be there next year. It'll give the Leafs cap space, but was it a mistake to hold on to him without an extension with what this group seemed to be capable of this year?
No, I'll never think something like that's a mistake. I think you go out one last time and you try to prove, especially with Matthews becoming captain that year, it's like it really was now or never, and everybody kind of knew it. And it's really like, what can we squeeze out of this group? And I think come what may in the off season, it's good that they got to do this one last time. I think it's closure for everybody. Like, God, this chapter is definitely closed.
Shayna, one thing, and you all had to listen to my ranting about it because I was so annoyed, is that there was a comment made by Austin Matthews, and this juxtaposition has been made about as teams go out, how do they go out? What is the vibe around the team? And you've got, as I mentioned, Marner yelling at the bench, Craig Berube getting frustrated, Austin Matthews after the game making a comment that there were too many passengers, which again, for a talented group, should raise some eyebrows. It seemed to conveniently slip the minds of everyone who was at exit interviews because no one asked about it. But Shayna, from a vibes perspective, what do we make of this group? Do they have to break things up from that perspective as well?
Sure. I think that's fair to say because, like, at the end of the day, you can have all the greatest players in the world. Like, there's team chemistry, there's vibes, there's all of that. There's a clutch factor you need to have. Like, you can't build a lineup of 16 game players, but you can sure as hell try to make sure you have players that embrace that mentality, right? Like, that is what's going to separate the best players in the world. Nathan MacKinnon is who he is because he brings it as well in the postseason, right? And Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are elite players. We're going to all hold them to a higher standard this series than we did the last two because they were good. They were not their amazing selves, and they've set the bar that much higher. There isn't that enough in Toronto. And I think that I honestly don't have an issue with like Nylander's playing the postseason. I don't think he was as good this year, but like generally speaking, but with Matthews and Marner, you can make the argument like, yeah, there are too many passengers in Toronto, sure. Um, and I don't even mind that they gave it another go this year because I think everyone's like, well, did you guys see the clip? I think it's from TSN that's like 9 years of the same excuses and the same like we'll be better next year
No.
comments. And it's like, sure, that's true. 9 years of the same shit. But then again, you're acting like Rome's built in a day for any other team, right? Like Connor McDavid has not won a Stanley Cup yet. Look how long he's been in the league. Look how long it took Nathan MacKinnon. So I think like two things can be true at the same time, right? Like Toronto has good players. They might also have too many passengers. They need to do something about that. The coaching couldn't figure out how to get those players going. And now it's been multiple coaches. Okay, maybe you now have to think about it differently. So it's just a mess. I can't wait to see how they screw it up.
Sarah, my last question
Exactly.
for you. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like, we're talking so much about the Leafs, the Leafs, the Leafs. Of course we are. But after the game, Florida is basically like apologizing on their behalf, like giving excuses why Toronto lost. I've never seen anything like it. What did you make of that?
Yeah, if I'm the Leafs, that's the most embarrassing part of all
Yep.
of it. They're like, oh, they weren't that bad. Stop making fun of them, guys. Come
They
on.
ran to mommy.
They did what they could.
All right. Well, you're going out with a bang. You gave us a doozy, Maple Leafs. You never disappoint. You never give up an opportunity to give up an opportunity. And for that, we thank you.
It's like in Lizzie McGuire writing in the yearbook, like you rock, never change. And that's what I want to like. I want to
Yeah.
send a note to the Leafs every year.
All right. Well, that was the second series that we've talked about from the second round that closed up. We covered Carolina and Washington for y'all last week. Two other series, both in the West, obviously concluded since we last talked. In fact, one concluded immediately after we last talked. And that was Edmonton beating Vegas. This one also seemed to go out with a whimper. It seems like Vegas was dealing with a lot more in terms of physical ability and health. Mark Stone not even playing in game 7, which is insane. But just a woeful performance by Vegas in their last two games, not a single goal scored. it was just depressing as could be. Sara, what did you make of Edmonton kind of just gently escorting Vegas off the ice instead of this being kind of the powerhouse matchup that we thought it would be?
Yeah, it was pathetic. Eichel didn't score a goal the entire series. They let Stuart Skinner have two consecutive shutouts to close it out. It's just kind of like, it's such a disappointment. I mean, I guess it shows the impact of Mark Stone, but how does one guy have that much impact? And it's like, oh, because you don't have that depth when you're making all of these moves. And you know what? To Vegas's credit, that kind of operating has worked until now. But when your top guy gets hurt and your other top guy doesn't score a goal, it's kind of like you needed the depth, and here's why.
Shayna, we just talked about the Leafs and should you be worried? Should you not be worried? Where do you put Vegas on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of needing to start to retool and looking at changing things up in terms of what they've been running back year after year after year?
I'll give management credit in that they are good at spotting cheap reclamation projects, and I think that can go a long way. The biggest concern is that they don't, with all of those big contracts and with some of those players getting into their 30s, you look at it and you can say it would really help to have some entry level guys right about now, right? Like, look at what Dorofeev has meant to them, and he's already on his second contract, and it's very inexpensive, but after next year, it's not going to be. So those are the kinds of players I think they need to find more of. So whether they can look for free the draft picks who don't sign with their teams or free agents out of college, like they need an infusion of youth, I think, to keep things going. And like that's the risk of it, right? Like if you want to keep your window open, but you're going to move all your draft picks and prospects, that's fine. But if it's going to start burning you as quickly as it is in Vegas, then you need to get creative around that. So I'm not worried yet because I feel like they've been pretty good at figuring shit out. But you also look at it and go, okay, guys like Saad and Pearson, like those are bargain bin signings that are slapping a band-aid on a problem. Like you invested a ton in your defense, a ton in your center depth. Great. But now you're suffering on the wings. Like now you have to figure it out. And even back in goal, right? Like, did either of you expect Aiden Hill to be one of the weaknesses for Vegas in the playoffs? That was a problem. And unlike last year, you don't have Logan Thompson behind him, right? Because they moved him a year before he became a restricted free agent. So you need depth everywhere. So how are you going to find it on a budget? If they can't, then I'm truly worried.
Sara, I asked Shayna the vibes question about our last matchup. I'll ask you that one about Vegas because as much as we were shitting on Toronto, they did at least find a way to get some pushback in that game 6. I mentioned this a couple of times in the setup, but there was just never like pushback from Vegas. From a vibes perspective, are you worried about Vegas?
Yes, yeah, that was just weird. And I mean, I guess the Oilers, it just goes to show like they were really improved on defense. I get like it's just so confusing to me, but it's because I wasn't expecting that. But I guess that's what kind of the second round shows you, right? The things you weren't expecting. So it's that, and Oilers power play kind of woke up because these were low scoring games.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, the game 6 is a 1-0. It's
Yeah.
crazy, crazy games. All right, there was one more matchup in round 2, and this one, to be honest with you, it's a little bit hard to talk about it in retrospect in just a hockey sense because of all that went around game 7, and Mark Scheifele loses his father the night before.
All around game 6.
Excuse me. Yes, loses his father. The team rallies around him. It's a hard fought battle. Connor Hellebuck seems to be maybe sort of figuring it out. And then they force overtime. The game goes to OT on a penalty by Mark Scheifele, who is in the box as Dallas scores the eventual game and series winner. Dallas played a great series. Winnipeg had a lot of adversity on and off the ice. And then there was just this moment of watching that team and actually both teams really rally around and support what Mark Scheifele did and what he went through. And to see how much they banded together, whether you were rooting for Winnipeg or whether you were rooting for Dallas, it was kind of hard to feel any emotion but just sadness and empathy for what he is going through, has gone through, and will continue to go through. Shayna, I don't know if you want to address that first, but just your thoughts overall on the series.
It it was amazing to see how the team rallied together, and it was amazing to see kind of like the hockey world rally together, right? Like Stars fans donating to some of the causes that Mark Scheifele supports. I think that was just so well done. It's so nice to see. I felt horrible for him when the game ended, even though it was a penalty, you're like, you had to take it. Like you did what you had to do in this game, right? So credit to the Jets, though. Like that's not a game that you should walk away and feel like total dog shit from. Like, I don't know, the Maple Leafs in game 7. Like they went up against the favorites. They kept their season going that extra game and they gave it their all. But just like the way Adam Lowry went to the box for Mark Scheifele was maybe like the most heartbreaking part of it. So it's nice to see how tightly knit this team is. And I think it really showed it there. I feel like everyone uses the Jets as like a punchline because of the airports and the city and no one wants to play there, things like that. And I think even on breakup day, you're seeing some of the quotes come out and like how close this group is and how much they want to stay in Winnipeg and how much they love the vibes and the environment. And I do think that's an important thing to have. So, they could there's something to build on here, right? You don't look at it and go, you have to blow the team up. Like there's something truly for them to build on here and take into next season.
Yeah, I must say to watch Adam Lowry's post-game interview was pretty gut-wrenching. Sarah, what do you want to say about this series? Do you want to start shifting talk into hockey, Hellebuck, or is there more to be said about what Mark Scheifele went through and just again the chemistry? And we talked about the strife in Toronto, and to Shayna's point, we really saw this group come together and support one another.
Yes, I thought it was uncomfortable and a little opportunistic the way certain moments were harped on and being reported. And I don't say this to criticize any one entity, but just kind of thinking about the way that we report and cover on stuff. I think the handshake line's fair to an extent. I think you can take the camera off him in the penalty box. I think the questioning, you know what, he is available. He should some players are available and they I guess should be asked about it, but that's on the borderline for me where it's like we don't need to do grief porn right now. It's right now. They can't say no, right? They can't say I'm not coming out here. I guess Connor Hellebuck can, but that's a story for a different day. I can't you can't really turn this down. So when you're cornered into this position, I think someone like Murat absolutely nailed this story because they
Yep.
are familiar with him, they are comfortable with him, and I just trust him to not be an asshole or not by accident, right? He's an
Right, right,
emotionally
right.
intelligent person.
It's handling
Um,
it with an element of grace.
yes,
Like I think that's
yes.
the perfect way to describe him.
Yeah, and I think the curation of content is where I got really pissed off about it. I mean, it's like the heartbreak emoji. Shut the fuck up. Like somebody's dad died hours ago, and you're like posting him in the box with grief with a broken heart for a click. I hate that. And I like, I like the difference between the fans. They donated to the Dallas Stars fans donated to Mark Scheifele's thing. You can post about that, right? You can post about fan initiatives and thing like that. But when I think you are showing a video of somebody whose dad just died and was a game time decision, you gotta not do that. Like I think there's such a line and it looks so tacky to me.
Yeah, I really struggled too because I was like, if this doesn't go the right way, like does that make it worse for him? Right? Like it's a
Yeah.
fairy tale if he comes out and then he
Yeah.
did score a goal and it can be a fairy tale or it can be an absolute disaster and another just awful thing on top of one of the most awful things. So yeah, it definitely was hard to watch, especially with the way that it went down. Out of respect for, excuse me, just the situation, the emotion around it, I'll ask each of you one question because if I'm going to get on journalists for not asking the important questions in Toronto, I'm going to ask you each quickly for your parting thoughts on Connor Hellebuck. Obviously, the most discussed part of that team seemed to struggle quite a bit in net, although some might suggest not as much as he previously has in the playoffs. And as I mentioned, he did maybe look like he was coming around a bit. If you look at some of the ClearSight analytic numbers, InGoal Magazine put some of these out. He was actually facing harder offensive attack against in the playoffs as compared to the regular season, which many people were saying, but that was just, again, some data to back that up. Shayna, your thoughts on Connor Hellebuck, where he is and where he goes from here, and how should he be perceived right now?
Yeah, I think that series against the Blues, it was so similar to the story in Colorado last year, right? Because Connor Hellebuck did turn into a pumpkin in round one for 2 straight years. That is a fact, right? But I also think he was challenged a lot more in those series than he was in the regular season. There's no doubt about it. The Blues figured out how to beat him, right? And they took advantage of it. Get those screens and tips and redirects in front and take away his eyes. Get that traffic in front. You even saw some patience from the Blue shooters to wait for the traffic to kind of align the right way to take the shot, right? But you also saw, and for the defense, you could say you need to keep his net front area as clear as possible. Easier said than done, but that's your task, right? But the same as last year against Colorado, there's those dangerous rush shots that were beating him too. And then it spirals from there. There's a lack of confidence. And you could easily see that. I think it was like game 3 or game 4 against the Blues where he allowed those 3 consecutive goals like really quick and the game just got out of hand. Like he's not reading plays the right way. It even happened in game 7 against the Blues when he allowed the 2 goals in the first period. You're like, he doesn't look confident. To his credit, Evolving Hockey has that he saved 4.8 goals above expected against the Stars. He was really good in games 2, 5, and 6. So that brought him up to a playoff total of a -5, right? So it's still bad. And that whole picture to me is the lasting impression, right? Like I wrote the lessons we're learning about these teams, and I put that Hellebuck is the new playoff Bob. And some people were like, that's not what's going to remember it. It's going to be the Shifley situation. And I think that's all nice and well and good to say. But when the playoffs start next year, we're going to be talking about
Right.
Connor Hellebuck because year after year after year, it is the same thing. Yes, he got better against the Stars. The Stars didn't exploit his weaknesses in the same way against the Blues. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be otherworldly in the regular season, and he has been, you need to bring it in the playoffs, right? So maybe he can take that series against the Stars and learn from it because he was much better. But he also needs to be the best version of himself in round one, or his team doesn't take it to 7 games, right? Like, I think it's pretty easy to say, like, oh, if Dylan Holloway was healthy, the Jets aren't even in round two. Oh, if a bounce goes one way or the other, they're not there either. And it's in part because of his play. So he has to be the one to change the narrative and change the conversation and change that reputation he's developed, just as Sergei Bobrovsky was those last couple years in Florida after a career of just falling apart when it matters the most.
Yeah, and that's funny. That's how I was gonna set you up, Sarah. Is like every time someone now says playoff Bob, I just laugh because playoff Bob, when he was in Columbus in particular, used to mean a completely different thing. And it was in no way favorable because every postseason he struggled. And my question to you, Sarah, is do you think that Connor Hellebuck can do what Sergei Bobrovsky did and change the narrative, or is this going to be what he is?
Yeah, I think he can do better. I think maybe he needs a sports psychologist, which I'm sure he already has, but maybe a different one. Or maybe I don't think Kevin Cheveldayoff gets enough flack in these situations because he's seen this film again and again. He sees it play out this way, and he doesn't really give Hellebuck much help. I do agree that it's like a yes and situation where Hellebuck needs to be better, and there are so many rebounds that he lets in. And then when it's like a player of the night. This is why teams were getting hat tricks against him every other night. It's because they expose the exact area they can do it in, and they keep doing it. There's that. There's also the defense lapses in front of him. But I feel like yes, Hellebuck has to be better, but we've seen exactly so clearly that why he's not, and the GM doesn't really do anything to improve that situation. So I think get him a little more help, and he could be fine. But do that or don't rely on him as your number one reason you're going to go far because you're just not.
Maybe get him a quality backup so in case he
Yeah.
struggles, you have help, right? Because
Like, Jesus.
Bob had Lyon when they made it to the Stanley Cup final. Lyon started the playoffs because he was
Yep.
so good
Yeah.
when Bob was out that he
Yeah.
ended up being the starter. And last year they had, oh, I don't know, Anthony Stolarz who had better regular season numbers than him in a smaller sample, right? They
Yeah.
made sure it wasn't Bob against the world after it was you have to bring in Spencer Knight for some playoffs, Chris
Mhm.
Drieger. They made sure he had help so you could do it 2 ways. One, reduce Hellebuck's workload, but two, when you're in the playoffs, maybe have someone that you can lean on if you need to pull him from a game and not completely blow your chances apart. Maybe they'd be quicker to pull him then, right? And stop things from going as badly as they do.
Well, that put a final end to round two play. Before we go into the conference finals, we, of course, are doing the Too Many Men Cup again this year. We did not get picks in time for round one, so we only have round two. But I am delighted to now share with you the results. And that is, if we all remember, one person on this show picked Carolina to advance, and that was me.
You.
So, with that advantage, I got 1 point from that series while you two got none. We all got a point from Toronto and Florida by picking the Panthers. I'm the only one that said it would go to 7, so I get an extra point. All three of us picked Vegas, so we were not doing well there. And all three of us picked Dallas in 6. So, as a result, round two point totals, Sara and Shayna are tied with 3, and I have 5. But there's 2 more
Wow.
rounds of play to go. And with that, let's move on to it. In the East, and I will let y'all know we are going to get to our picks, which we all made before gameplay started last night. But the East is, of course, Carolina hosting Florida. And I swear to goodness gracious, Florida, every time they start a series, I'm like, okay, well, game one's in Florida because I just, in my mind, they're the better team. And
Yep.
it's wild to me that they are the road team this entire time. But Florida goes into Carolina, and with just a little bit of rest, which can often be a thing, is that if you just keep going, it's often easier just to stay in the right mindset. Blows the doors off Carolina in terms of the score, winning 5-2 in game one. Stephen and I were having a debate last night because ironically, as we were just talking about, I felt like Bob was so good early that it wasn't necessarily team play that totally dominated it. And Sara, you talked about this in your audio recap this morning, but Carolina held Florida without a shot for like 15 minutes. And then literally the very next shot, goal in the net. So Sara, in your backyard as always, in the back of your heart, front of mind, tell us what you think of this series even before game one.
I mean, wow, yeah, I'll try not to have bias from my brain. I think that's impossible. But I thought it was going to be closer than game one indicated, but I feel now it's going to be all about game two. Like, is that a cope? Maybe. But at the same time, this is one of the ones that didn't end in quadruple for overtime. You're going to see if the Hurricanes can bounce back. You saw they got to their game after the first period and they let the Panthers get to them because they kind of got agitated. Aho takes a retaliatory penalty the first few minutes of the game, and then the Panthers are cooking, and it's like, all right, we know we can handle this. We know we can play our game. So it became them scoring 2 goals where Anderson, it's good for game two that Anderson wasn't really to blame for any of these goals, especially the 2 power play goals. And then there was like takeaways, defensive lapses, transitional errors, but it really wasn't about Anderson. So you go back and you say, all right, he's not struggling. It's kind of the Canes need to sharpen up early on in the game.
Shayna, Sara talked about frustrations and things like that, and this is now a Carolina team that has lost, I think it's 13, right? 13 straight conference final games. They've been swept at this point in the playoffs for the last 3 years. And it's always wild. Every time it happens, we watch it happen and we're like, but they look so good just the last round. And now here we are. And Sara detailed some of the things that weren't going right. You even saw Gostisbehere shoot a puck at Marchand, which honestly, I just kind of had to laugh. It was kind of funny and he owned it after. But Shayna, can Carolina right the ship and change the narrative? We're talking about that a lot this episode. Or does Carolina have real reason to be concerned? And is it coming from a problem within, or is this just the Panthers being the Panthers?
I think there's just such a huge difference between the Panthers and the Capitals and the Devils. Like, I think that's part of it too. And it's like, this is your wake up call. How do you respond to it? And I think that's going to like decide the series. Like, I know that's really groundbreaking stuff here, but I think the Canes need to be careful not to try to be overly physical, that they try to match the Panthers. And I think they need to find ways to get under the Panthers and annoy them to force them into things, right? That's the whole thing. Like, Shane Gostisbehere shoots a puck at Brad Marchand after Marchand hits him. That's going to piss off Marchand. He's going to react. And I think you have to try to like walk the line of like goading them into things, but then not responding as much to it, which is what I think the Panthers are so good at, right? We talked about it, I think, before the Leafs Panthers series, like this is what the Panthers are going to try to do. The Leafs don't play into it. And now like the reverse is going to be true because the Panthers are very good at playing that game. Um, but I think that I agree with you in that the rest versus rust argument. Like I think the Panthers have the adrenaline to just keep it going. I think a big thing here is the Panthers defense all year. When they didn't have Montour, it was like, okay, where are they going to get offense from the blue line? And I think we're seeing guys like Ekblad and Mikkola step up a lot more offensively, which is very surprising to me. But it just feels like they're getting the jump on things because their defense is playing so well and activating more that that's going to be a key for the Canes to slow down. Um, so I'm curious how that one goes. And the other part of it is in this series, like just maintaining your like not getting overly frustrated when things don't go your way, right? Because I think special teams is going to be really big here. You have two really good penalty kills, but already after being pretty much perfect on the penalty kill through 2 rounds, they're allowing 2 against. But my question to you two, because this is what I was thinking about a lot last game, after it really started all in round one. I always thought Aaron Ekblad was one of the more vanilla players in the league,
Oh my
right?
God,
Because like,
he's taken a heel turn of all heel turns.
right?
He's
Like
off the drugs or something. Not actually, okay? Like I'm not doing that, but like
the
I
forearm
don't
is just
know. The
going.
testosterone has gotten to him.
Maybe he actually doesn't want to play, so he's just going to try and keep getting suspended time and time again.
I'm like watching it last night and I'm like, I feel like he doesn't take that many penalties and like I
Right.
always thought of, he's the guy that gets injured, not the other way
Yep.
around.
Yeah.
And I'm even looking at his numbers. I'm like, he always draws a number of penalties. Like, oh, he took 24 minors, but one major all year. And I'm like, that's not that bad for a defenseman going up against top competition, right? Like, those are numbers that like kind of make sense. And then you see this, and I'm like, where did this come from?
I know.
You're up in a game and you're using your forearm on Jackson Blake. What is happening here? I don't know. That's something to watch in this series as well.
It will be hopefully an eventful series that will hopefully not end in another sweep for Carolina. And in fact, that is what the three of us are believing as we go in Caniacs. Never fear, Sara Civian remains in your corner. She's got the Canes in 7, while Shayna and I have both picked the Panthers. Shayna's got them in 6, and I have them in 7. So we will see. Of course, the only other series as the hockey continues to dwindle away on the men's side is the Western Conference Final. It's going to kick off tonight, so you will have seen or know what the score is of game one when you're listening to this, is, of course, Edmonton at Dallas. This is going to be an interesting one. Some players have gotten healthy. Some players are still being quiet. Jake Ottinger seemed to be winning the nets last game, and Sara mentioned Edmonton surprisingly finding a way for Stuart Skinner to suddenly become really good in goal. But Sara, what is your take, thought, hope, projection for the Western Conference Final?
I think it's Oilers in 6 because if it goes to 7, it's the Stars. But I really think the way they've been dominating and the confidence that has been brewing and growing from all over the lineup has been huge. I think we haven't seen the best from McDavid and Draisaitl yet. And I think Evan Bouchard is really like establishing himself as one of the premier defensemen in the league.
Shayna?
I'm curious to see if the Stars scoring depth can pick it up because I think we saw it kind of dry up and it was a low scoring series and I don't think this is going to be. I know like Edmonton was at times against Vegas, but I just feel like this one we're gonna see McDavid and Draisaitl elevate their games. And obviously now the Oilers have figured out their forward depth, so I want to see how the Stars counter it. But it's a cool matchup from last year because it has a different feeling. Like last year, the big difference between the Stars and the Oilers was that the Oilers had the star power, the Stars didn't. Now they do. So how does that look? And the return of Miro Heiskanen only adds to that because not only are you getting someone back of his ability, you're not playing someone in minutes they should not be in. And I really think we're going to see Harley and Heiskanen get split up in this series instead of playing together. That's going to be their, okay, we need some offense in the third period, throw them together, but not for the first two. So you can have two puck movers, which is going to help get the forwards going for 3 lines instead of 1 and maybe 2, right? But that Oilers defense, I cannot believe how well they are playing right now. Like Bouchard has looked amazing, and now they might get Ekholm back after game 2. And Wallman and Klingberg together, like they're popping off. And then you have Stetcher coming into the lineup to play with Darnell Nurse. That pair was really good against the Hurdle line in Vegas. So I'm really intrigued to see who's gonna be the better defensive group in this series. And if it's the Oilers, how do the Stars respond and vice versa? Because I think Chris Knobloch's playoff adjustments have been excellent. And I want to see if Peter DeBoer is pushed to make adjustments how he handles them.
I'm double checking too, because I think I saw that both goalies are not in Dallas for Edmonton, right? Is that true? Did I make that up?
Goalies are not in Dallas for Edmonton. Like Pickard's
For
not
Pickard,
there.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't think
okay.
he's ready.
And Connor Brown's a game time decision for tonight is like the other like little note on the series.
Okay.
Here, let's see.
This one's going to be
Yeah,
interesting.
he's not on the trip.
Okay.
He stayed home to rehab.
Who knew that Cody Ceci was the reason why the Oilers couldn't make it through all along? I'm just kidding. That's not fair. That's just
That's going to be so interesting too, because if anyone knows how to pick apart Cody Cece's game, it's going to be the Oilers. But on the other hand, like, what intel do you get there? Like, I always love that. Like, I saw there was a comment earlier about Klingberg and Ben, and it's like, oh, what are you going to do to like scout each other? It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Thanks for giving me the idea. I forget who tweeted that, so I'm very sorry. But I saw that was being discussed, and even things like, Ben saying something like, yeah, he'll check Klingberg, and Klingberg being like, I'm just going to skate past him. He doesn't have the foot speed to step up. Like, I don't know. I kind of love that. I think that like adds like a fun element to these series.
Yeah, it does for sure. All right. And this one again, we are split. So this should provide some separation in the Too Many Men Cup standings at the end of the conference finals, because Sara, as she already mentioned, has Edmonton in 6, while Shayna and I both have picked Dallas in 7, which also arguably makes Sara right both times because she said that too. So we'll see what goes on there. But those series are underway. We're down to just one game a night. Enjoy it while you can, friends, because again, the hockey just gets sparser and sparser as both the PW and the NHL are winding down their seasons. And just as the seasons are winding down, so too is this episode, but not before we finish with everyone's favorite game. And that is, of course, Fuck, Marry, Kill. And because we just want one more opportunity to make everything about the Leafs for the very last time this season. Maybe, we'll see. Sara, you are up first. It is FMK. We saw Brad Marchand in his post-series comments against Florida, hearing him talk about how much he loved Toronto when he was younger and they were his favorite team. And when you think about if you can't, what is it? If you can't, whatever, join them. We're not going to try and figure out.
Beat them, join them.
Thank you very much. See, I'm the one without.
Wow, I got
Good
one
job.
of those phrases for a change. Oh
Good
my
job.
God, it's a new world.
So in that spirit, Sara, next
Yes.
season, FMK, Brad Marchand, who is a free agent, as a Bruin, as a Panther, or as a Maple Leaf? Question mark? Go ahead.
Killing him as a Bruin, like it's just you don't do that. He's gonna come back and retire for a day or whatever, but I just don't know. It would be an odd dynamic to bring him back to usher in the new Bruins. So we're letting that dream die. I'm going to fuck him as, what is this, a Panther still?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'll fuck him as a Panther. I mean, he fits in there perfectly, but it's like how many rats can live in one cage? And I am going to marry him as a Leaf. If they beat you, join them and use it as an inside job. I don't know. Why not? You tried everything except that.
Shayna, he's done it with one team, going down to play with Sam Bennett now. What say you about the chances of where Brad Marchand ends up FMK style?
All right, I'm really torn on this one because it's like I know where like what I think is going to happen is not what I think should happen. Part
We
of
want
me
the what
says
should happen.
what should happen.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say kill Florida
Okay.
because we don't often see them extend those like shorter term fits, right? Like their whole thing is like they have their sign core and they're gonna interchange their supporting cast. And I think it's a cool challenge to see like how do you find another third line answer, even though I think he fits so well there, and Lundell and Lucerne are so young that it kind of like balances out the ages and stuff too. But I think I want to make it let the Panthers have to figure it out and stay to what they've been doing because I could see someone like Marchand like because he's showing how good he is outside of Boston, getting too much for them. I will fuck Boston because I don't think Boston deserves him at all at this point. I
Yeah.
think he gave them everything, and I don't like how things went down. But I think a groveling part of it could be kind of funny. And if any player, like if you're gonna, I want to see the Bruins just grovel and be like, "We made a mistake, come back," and just fix things around him because there is something so fitting about that. But I'm going to marry the Maple Leafs because that is the trap the Maple Leafs will fall into. How many times do they go, we need an ex-captain because we don't have enough leadership, or we need someone who won a cup elsewhere because we don't have that? And while I think he is the exact type of depth player that they need in their middle six, I could just see them doing this all wrong, like handing out a contract that's too expensive and too long, like they did with Chris Tanev, instead of being like cognizant of where a player actually is in their career. I could just see this kind of trap being like, well, he beat us. Now we need to jump. And I think that would be funnier. Also, I want to see Martian eat the Toronto media alive. Like, I think that would be absolutely hysterical on a nightly
Yes.
basis. Like, give him a softball and let him just like throw shit back at you. I think that would be fun.
I'm game for that.
Well, I have no notes. I think you two have covered it. My vote would have aligned with Sarah's because all three of us want the Toronto of it all. And again, I think the ship has sailed on the Boston side of things. But what can you imagine if this actually happens? This will be better
Oh
than
my
predicting
God.
Vancouver not in the playoffs.
No,
We'll
like I
never
think he's
stop
actually
talking.
gonna stay in Florida, which is gonna make everyone even more salty. But like, oh my God, I want to see him just make it to July 1st. Just make it to July 1st.
It's going to be fun. We shall see. Well, we don't need you to wait till July 1st. We'll be back next week with another episode. And in the meantime, until we're back in your ears, you can always follow us on social at YouTube, at Twitter, and at Instagram at 2_much_man on the BlueSky. You just replace those underscores with hyphens. We're all there for you. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear boots on the ground. We'd love to hear what you want to hear from Sara while she's at the Stanley Cup final. And maybe make sure you're checking out her voice notes and subscribing to her Substack if you aren't already. And until we talk again, enjoy the hockey. And more importantly, my friends, we ask that you do something, no matter how big or small, to make sure that hockey truly is for everyone. We will talk to you soon.
Love you.
Bye.